Hello there, fellow Southern New Hampshire University students. Today we'll be looking at our final project for Southern New Hampshire Gaming 207. We have two levels for this. So the first level is the menu level. Go ahead and hit play here. And it pops up a menu interface, a game menu with two options, start game and quit game. We'll go ahead and go start game, which loads us into the second level. We spawn in a room here. The textures for the walls and the floors is using a prototype type environment for our materials. And we got a little up and down arrow here object with a gun underneath. Let's go ahead and pick it up. Press E to interact and open the door. Alright. Saw a little GUI there interface pop up on the screen. Knock some boxes off the edge down in the hole there. If the player happens to fall down in the hole, the player is killed by the pain causing volume down there, and we can go ahead and try again. Pick up. See that GUI interface pop up there? Interact. Okay, we'll knock it off. This time we'll try and stay up on top. Jump across. Left shift or crouch to go underneath. You can see it cuts the capsule. So if you try and go underneath, you can't. But if you press shift, it cuts the capsule height in half, and you can go underneath. Alright, turret. Here we have a turret that shoots at you. Okay, we'll go ahead and shoot them ourselves. Alright, we've used up 2 rounds. We're down to 4 ammo. We received that 6 ammo when we first picked up turret. You got some nice Niagara effects there, playing for that explosion of where the turret was at. When you blow it up, a door opens up here on the side. If you used all of your ammo, there's another ammo pickup right here. And there's a nice little ding that plays once you pick up the ammo. Alright, shoot the door. Let's go ahead and shoot the door. Let's get that out of your way. Okay, let's go ahead and shoot the door. There we go. Got a nice hole. Broke our way through it. That's using the Chaos engine features for destructible meshes. In this case, we destroyed the door. You can set how difficult to destroy the door, things like that. In this case, you saw I got a couple cubes in here. You can see you can knock these cubes over, just like the ones that were blocking the door in the beginning. Alright, continue on. Alright, a moving platform here, a trigger, and a open the door to escape and win. Let's go check out that trigger. It's blue, and when you step on it, it turns green and also depresses down into the ground. And you can see the door's open there. When you come off, it moves back up, goes back to blue, and you can see the door over there is closing. It's far enough away where the player can't just run over and escape out the door. So that means they have to figure out an alternate way to trigger this trigger not using the player. So if we notice, there was a bunch of blue boxes on the previous section. So we'll go across our platform here. Whenever it gets back here. Alright. Step onto it. Ride it across. Let's find a nice suitable box. We'll get one of these small boxes. Yeah, we'll take with this one right here since it's already knocked over. Let's push it up to the top here. And of course, when you're recording, it doesn't work exactly how you want it to. Alright, let's try again. Let's get that small box up to the top. So in this case, I'm pushing it. Another option would be to use a pickup feature, which is something that could definitely be added with another interface. Let's see if I can get. You hear the click of the gun. I was trying to shoot it out of the way. Okay, trying to get behind the cube here so I can move it at an angle. There we go. Move it over here to the trigger. Gotta love those footprint sounds. Okay, turn green, depressed, and the door's open. So we go through here, and technically, we have met the winning conditions. For the project assignment, we also had to include a landscape. So I have my landscape with foliage. We had to have a mountain, so I got a beautiful mountain right up there in the distance, made with landscape sculpting. And we had to have one water feature. So come over here to the side, and voila, we have our water feature using the Unreal Engine 5.0 water plugin. Comes default with the 5.0 system. And that meets all the criteria of what we needed for our assignment. We'll go ahead and hit escape here and go over a couple of the details. Alright. In the levels, we'll look at the main level first. Going to the level blueprint, you have the when the game begins, we go ahead and create our widget, add it to the viewport, and we set the interface to mouse mode only, which is then reversed when we go into the first person. So in the first person game blueprint level. Okay, there we go. When it first goes up, one thing we are doing is we are looking for the actors of the blueprint turret. We're binding an event to when the turret's destroyed, and then that event will call an open door for that door that you saw earlier. I'll show you again. So that door was right next to the turret. It's actually right here, this little door right there, and it's called hidden door as its object name. So you can see hidden door, and it gets destroyed when the turret event is called. All right, get the player controller set back to game mode only, which is basically stopping the mouse. All right. Looking at some of our other options here, first person, let's look at some of our blueprints. Let's go ahead and look at the arrow. The arrow is kind of cool. So the arrow uses a new actor sequence, which is new with Unreal Engine 5.0. And what it does is allows you to put the sequence actually inside the blueprint itself to encapsulate it within the blueprint. So everything for the arrow is kept within inside here. Event tick, we get to face the player by getting the actor location. Once the player overlaps with the arrow, it goes ahead and destroys the actor. Pretty simple. Right? And all it is just a arrow that I created in Maya, and then I go ahead and add a material instance that I created that has a emissive color value. And with the material instance, you just assign different color values to the different items. All right. Blueprint door. Okay, so this was that door we used right here for escaping. Okay, when you click on it here, you can see that there's a trigger switch count. So you can have a count of 2, and then it would actually require 2 triggers in the world that are linked to it. When you click on the trigger itself, you can see that there is a eyedropper, and then you can pick the door that you want. So this trigger is linked to this door, and this door requires 1 switch. So that way when you trigger this, it'll go ahead and begin opening that door there. If it said 2, you'd have to link 2 triggers to this object here, and then when both triggers are activated, it'll go ahead and go through. We'll look at the trigger real quick. Okay, so the trigger, begin actor overlap, end actor overlap. And what we do is we have the actor is the trigger itself, but then we do switch activated and deactivated. What that is, it's linking to the door here. And when we go look at the door itself, we'll see what the activate and deactivate do. But it's linking to this door that we use the eyedropper to identify which door we're talking about here. When it is activated, we set the switch to a neon green color. And when it's deactivated, we set it back to the original blue color. When it's activated, the switch will go through a switch position of at 0 seconds. It starts at position 7, and it goes all the way down to position 8 at 0.7 seconds in duration. All right. Looking at the event graph, so it's going to play that. So activate is going to play it. When it's deactivated, it's going to reverse the play. And what we do is we go ahead and put that switch position into the new location Z of that trigger plate, which is that center part that goes up and down. And we're just adjusting the relative location of it. All right. Let's go ahead and look at the door real quick then, since we talked about that. So the door, we had that switch activated and deactivated that we saw in the other one. And what we do is we assign 2 variables, integers. So the trigger switch count, which is how many triggers are attached to that door, this door. And then the pressure switch activated, how many are currently being activated. So when one is activated, we go ahead and increment the count by 1. And then we check it how many is needed. If it's greater than or equal to, then it's true. Then we go ahead and do the door activation, which moves from 2 seconds from position 150 over 2 seconds to position 400. Okay, and it's going to feed that into the Z location for the door, move it up and down. Looking next, let's take a look at the blueprint player. All right. So in here, receive any damage, we look at what his current health is. So you can see the variables on the left side here. Ammunition, current health, max health, has rifle, and respawn transform. Okay, so we take current health, subtract the damage from the any damage, the amount of damage from the any type of damage. Okay, and we reset, this is the new current health. We check it, is it less than or equal to 0? If this is true, then we go ahead and reset the world by reopening the level, first person map, and it resets the player. All right, looking up a little bit here. Okay, we're using the enhanced input action system, which we'll look at the very end here. So when it started for crouching, It changes our capsule component height, which is right here, and it go ahead and sets it at 48, which allows us to crouch underneath that object. And once we're done triggering that event, it resets it to 96. That allows us to crouch and uncrouch. If you're using a third-person character, you'd actually want an animation attached to that, but since it's just first person and you can't see yourself, just adjusting capsule height itself is fine without having an animation attached. For the interact, this is part of the interact blueprint interface that we'll take a quick look at in a little bit. We look at any overlapping actors. We pump them out in an array. We loop through the array, find any array elements that have the blueprint interface interact available. If one is true, then we go ahead and execute the interact call message. The interact call message is available, so let's go ahead and look at the sliding door. On the sliding door, uh, we go ahead and take the event interact message, and it will go ahead and play a door open timeline. Door open timeline is just going from 0 seconds to 1 second to adjust how quickly the door is open. So we're looking at time, not an XY axis. We take that time and we go ahead and plug it into a lerp. And we're taking that lerp and we're adjusting from our relative original position to a -70 for one door and a 0 position to a +70 for the other door. And you can see you got the right door and left door, and we're plugging those into the new Y locations for that because it's all relative positions. And then we go ahead and remove that interact widget. So that interact widget was that E that popped up on the screen. We create the widget and we set it as that. We go ahead and create a variable for that. And then on component begin overlap, we go ahead and if that is the character that's overlapping, not a door, another object, but the character that's overlapping and it's true, then we go ahead and add that E interact widget to the viewport. Actually, let's look at that visual for that. So we got this code for that, and the visual here is just two glass windows, left door, right door, and then we have the trigger box here that checks for the overlap. Okay, look, trigger plate, close that one. First person character. Okay, nothing new for the first person character. For the moving platform, so this is new in Unreal Engine 5.0, we have an interp to movement. So instead of putting a sequence in the open world and putting dropping in the world as an object, you can actually just go ahead and put it as a component to a blueprint itself. Come over here, you set how long you want it to take, create two control points. Since it's relative, wherever you place it in the world, so in this case, this point right there is our 0, 0 place in the world position. So for our first position, and then we go ahead and say where we want it to be. In this case, I want to move it on the Y axis for 600 paces. So what I did to figure that one out is I look, okay, here, I want to move it on the green axis, which you can see in the bottom left corner here is the Y. And I'm looking, okay, how far does it take? And it was at 920. When I get to the position of where I want to go, it was about 1520. All right, that's about 600, and that's how you can know the position of how far you want to move it. So when we look at it, I go ahead and put Y600. It's just going to move over a period of 5 seconds back and forth between these 2 points there. You can actually add as many points as you want, and it will just follow around. Now what we did is we went ahead and set it as ping pong, which means just going to loop back and forth from one point to the other point. So it'll go through it. If you have 8 points, it's going to go through all 8 and then reverse back through all 8. Loop reset means that when it gets to the end of the loop to point 8, it's going to reset back at number 1 and go around the loop again. That's another option if you don't want it to go backwards along the loop. One shot or one shot reverse, where it goes and then it goes one time back. That's the moving platform. Let's see what else good stuff do we got here. We've got our turret. The exploding door. So the exploding door is essentially a geometry collection component. We had set the colors for it. When it receives any damage, we play a explosion sound at the location that the door was exploded at. And the door itself, here we go, this object right here. And all it is just a door that we have fractured multiple times. And here, then we can come and adjust like what the mass of it is. The higher the mass, the more power it'll take to destroy it, or the easier it is to destroy it. The lower the mass, the more difficult it is to destroy it because it takes the weight of itself is that mass, and if it has a high mass, it actually crushes itself once it's been damaged. and it will break down into smaller pieces. For that, you just go up here to the fracture mode, and you can click on the object. And like for this one, level 0 is the object itself. The first fracture was 103. So to do that, what you do is you just go like uniform, and it'll fracture it all into the pieces for you. Level 2 would be 672, and you can actually see that by going over here, details, bones, show bone colors, and there you can see all the different fractures of that piece right there. So 103 for the first break, and then if you continue shooting it, it can break into a total of 672 fracture pieces. Go ahead and turn those bones back off. Let's see, blueprints. Let's look at the weapon. Nope, not this one. It was the other one. The weapon component. There we go. So when the player picks it up, it plays a, or when they shoot, it spawns the projectile, plays the sound. I go ahead and adjust the ammunition, subtract 1 from the ammunition. Let's see what else we got. Yep, that's all I really did with this one here. All right. I think that just about wraps up. Oh, the advanced input. I meant to talk about that as well. So for Unreal Engine 5.0, you should be using the input map context. So our default here are these here. So I added the interact with an E key and the input action crouch with the C key. Those two input actions are defined right here in our actions folder, and you just make an input action. You don't need to change any of the details into it, and to make that, you just right click, input, and you can create your input action. You just give it its name. You don't need to change anything here either. In the map input mapping, then you go ahead and set the um, keys that you want it to go for. Right here, you set the key that you want, and that is now becomes an ability or an action that you can take. All right, that about wraps up our presentation. Thank you, everybody. It's been a fantastic semester. I really enjoyed learning with everybody, and I hope we meet again. Thanks.